Alright, for this portion of the tutorial you will need several different components including your ARM assembly, as well as 4 zip ties, a breadboard, your Uno board, a battery holder, 4 potentiometers, 26 male-to-male jumper wires. I suggest keeping those in sets of 3, and additionally you will need 4 AA batteries. Alright, let's get into building this. So I'm going to go ahead and move some of this stuff out of the way so that we have room to zip tie some of our electrical components on the ARM assembly. Alright, so move the ARM assembly into view, and we are going to need to zip tie some of these wires so that they are a little less messy. So one of the first things you'll see at the top near the gripper is that there is a small hole on the side of the servo indentation. So go ahead and stick that wire through there if you haven't already. You can do it around, but it allows us to keep out of the way of the gear and all the moving components underneath. It's just a much easier way to do it. Let's go ahead and start zip tying. So once you feed it under, you will push the wire into the groove on the underside of the ARM extension 2 piece. And take a zip tie and restrain it. Alright. So you can use scissors. I'm using diagonal pliers. I'm going to go ahead and cut the excess zip tie off. Ensure that it has full range of motion, which in my case it does, and we'll move on to the next servo. So the next servo is similar, except we will run it through and combine it with the wire that we have already pushed through the indentation. So let's go ahead and push both wires through the indentation as I have here, and we will zip tie those together. Make sure there's a little bit of slack in both of these, as we need to be able to move the joint freely. Alright, so I have that tightened down. I'm going to go ahead and cut the excess zip tie and assure again that I have full range of motion, which I do. So now we'll move down to the bottom of the ARM extension pieces. And lastly, zip ties right through here, restraining these. If need arises and the zip ties will not stay inside the grooves, you can use a dab of glue or tape or even more zip ties just to lock them into place so that you have a nice neat appearance of your entire ARM model. Now lastly, I'm going to take all the servo wires and zip tie them together down here so that they can all move as a unit, uniform unit. Alright, got that, and now you should have a neat ARM assembly. Okay, so now let's move into the electronic parts. So go ahead and take out your Arduino board, and you will also need your breadboard, and we are going to start attaching some components on the ARM model. So on the ARM model, you'll take some of your jumper wires, and they should be in sets of 3. It just makes this process a whole lot easier. I'm going to demonstrate with this wire. And go ahead and plug the 3 into servo wires. So with the servo wires, you want to plug them into their respective parts to power the servo and control it via PWM port. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have each one be as servo 1, servo 2, servo 3, and servo 4, and I'm going to have them numerically rising. So I'm going to have the PWM ports numerically rising, starting the S1 servo, or the lowest servo, at PWM port 3, and then increasing to PWM port 9. Alright, so let's go ahead and plug in the power and ground to the breadboard power and ground strips. For now, the breadboard is not powered on, but treated as if it is, since we will be plugging in batteries very shortly. Plug in this wire. I'm going to plug this into digital pin 3 as the PWM port is necessary, and go ahead and plug in all your wires likewise. Alright, so now that we have that done, I've gone ahead and moved my breadboard and Arduino board to this side of the ARM so that we can more clearly see the breadboard. And I have zip tied. You can also use tape or any other restraining method just to kind of clean up the board a little bit so that we have room for the potentiometers. So let's go ahead and introduce those. you'll need 4 potentiometers, and they will be plugged in ascending order. So just as we have a servo 1, 2, 3, and 4, we will have a potentiometer 1, 2, 3, and 4 in a numerical order on the breadboard. Let's go ahead and plug those in. Leave a small gap in between. All right, now we're ready to wire them up. So take other sets of 3 jumper wires, and you are going to plug those in just as we had in the potentiometer video, with this side toward my hand being for the power strip and the side opposite of that being for ground. The pin in the middle will be for an analog input. Let's go ahead and plug these in accordingly. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and plug in the farthest pin to my hand. I'm going to plug this one into the power strip. I'm going to plug the middle one into A0 or any analog pin, and plug in the wire opposite of the power pin into the ground strip on the breadboard. All right, so now let's go ahead and do all of the others. Alright, so now that I have plugged in all the potentiometers into their respective analog pins and grounded them and powered them through the breadboard, it's time to attach the battery. So go ahead and take out your battery holder, and you'll notice that there is a black wire and red wire and a switch. The red wire, or a differentiating color such as orange or purple, will be plugged into the power strip on the breadboard, while the black wire will be plugged into the ground strip on the breadboard. Go ahead and attach that. Trim this down just a little bit. Assure that the battery holder is in the off position with the circle down, and go ahead and plug in the batteries. Okay, again, make sure that it is in the off position, and now it is time to power the Arduino through our breadboard. So the power is not very useful unless we can get it to the Arduino board, so we will plug in the power strip of the breadboard into the 5-volt output pin of the Arduino, and the ground strip of the breadboard into the ground pin on the Arduino. Instead of using the 5-volt output pin on the Arduino as where it is plugged in, you can also use the VIN pin or voltage input. I have found that using the 5-volt pin rather than the VIN pin has given me a little bit of better results when I am using external power sources such as the batteries. So now that you have your electronic components ready, it is time to find a flat surface that can attach to the suction cups on the ARM construction.